I think that it's about building a culture of those high expectations in school and having the shared belief that every student can do challenging work given the right support. Instead of dumbing things down, we should be trying to scaffold students up. College students who want to study teaching is down
Yeah.
about 30% over a decade ago.
Wow.
And we've got a leaky bucket. The leaky bucket is the teachers that, come, they teach for a couple years, 2, 3 years, and then they go off to find something else. You have to ask yourself why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Fulfillment Project. Today is a unique show. Today I've got a lot of skin in the game because my boss, the beautiful Sari Factor, Vice Chairman and Chief Strategy Officer at Imagine Learning, is with us. Sari has been a driving force in education for decades. She's published in Forbes, EdTech Digest, EdTech Review, as well as being featured on podcasts like College Board's The Education Equation and Todd Zipper's An Educated Guest. Today, we're going to unpack her vision for not only transforming K-12 education in America, but I feel like a lot of listeners either are in school, were just in school, or have kids in school, and you're wondering, what the heck are we doing about all this screen time? What the heck are we doing with AI? Kids taking pictures of their math problems and the AI is solving it. Literally, Sari is at the tip of the spear. And what's so beautiful about her is while she's brilliant and has all the degrees, she started as a mathematics teacher and she has been in education her whole life. So this isn't just a business thing. This is a heart thing for Sari. I know her personally. She is an amazing woman. Sari, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Andy. I'm excited to be with you.
I love it. Where are you calling in from? Where's your home base, Sari?
Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson, Arizona. So in the Midwest here, my sweater's on and it's fall. And in Tucson, it's probably just becoming nice weather.
Yeah, in the 80s today.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. So Sari, so much to cover. Let's just start. Probably what everyone's thinking. There's a lot of problems with education in America today. From declining NAEP scores to the erosion of academic expectations. COVID really changed the game, got people a lot more focused on education than ever before. What do you see as the most urgent threats to student success today? There's a lot of them, but what's the top one or the top couple you see from your view?
I'd like to talk about 3. One, around failure to rely on the science of learning. We know a lot about how students learn, how people learn. We know how the brain works better than ever before and how learning happens. Yet too often we abandon the science to chase the new thing. I'm really encouraged about recent efforts in so many states related to the implementation of high-quality instructional resources, or sometimes called high-quality instructional materials, HQIM. A lot of people may have heard about the science of reading, which is really showing to begin to demonstrate improved student outcomes with a sustained effort at using scientifically and evidence-based curriculum. So that's one thing that I worry about. If we abandon that, wow. Second thing I want to talk about is student engagement.
Yeah.
Or more aptly, student disengagement. There was a Gallup poll last year that talked about less than half of Gen Z K-12 students say their schoolwork challenges them or gives them the opportunity to do what they do best. And if students aren't engaged in their learning, what they're learning in school is only going to serve them for a while. They have to go on beyond high school, go into the world of work, go on to post-secondary learning, maybe go into the service, whatever they choose to do, they're going to have to be learning and coping with the new information that's coming at them all the time.
Well, and
so
what's crazy, Sari, is I've got a 4-year-old at home and he loves learning. He loves looking at leaves. He loves being outside. He loves dirt under his fingernails. He is so naturally curious. And I think we all are. And in the world today, I'm constantly learning. I think every person listening to this has learned 5 new things at least this year. We're learning about AI. We're learning about how to use YouTube to learn how to use Excel. We're learning to use Excel for our jobs in Word and Canva. And we're all constantly learning. So how do we not kill that engagement piece? I love that you said that because for me, it's like, I remember when I was a student and sometimes it was masterful and sometimes it was just so hard. And when you are in a classroom, dreadful. Hey, my friends, I've got my new book out and I want you to experience it. You can do it two ways. One, you go to Amazon right now, search Fulfillment Project. You get a hardcover or a soft cover. Reflections on each episode from season 1 of Fulfillment Project, a beautiful summary, key quotes, and then room to journal. If you want to start journaling and you don't quite know how, this is a great way to start. Makes a great coffee table book. I was very intentional about making it as beautiful as a Neanderthal like me could make it. If you don't want to pay for it, go to substack.com right now. Subscribe to my Substack newsletter for free, and I will immediately send you an email with a free PDF download of the book so you can still participate with it that way. Thank you so much. When I get to be in classrooms, and when I see the spark of the students, it is the joy of life. The joy of learning is the joy of life.
We're really good about that in the elementary grades, and it's kind of like you get to middle school and the kids are, stressed, and they're all
Yep.
going through the normal hormonal bodily changes that kids go through in those tween to teen years. And then you get into high school and there's competition and, it's like the joy is taken out of learning so much. But I'm finding that there's signs of hope. So, and you mentioned AI, and I want to come back to that because artificial intelligence is the third thing that I think has the potential to either really help with student outcomes or really take away from student outcomes. So you were asking what the
Whoa.
threats to student success are. And we
Yeah.
know that the world is changing so rapidly, and the world that kids are graduating into and what we work and live in and what's going to be required of our graduates is going to change. So I think about the risks of AI undermining students thinking for themselves. Humans, we're all wired to take shortcuts. And if you've got an assignment due and, how do I quickly get the right answer? It's not about the right answer. It's about the thinking process that helps learners get to the right answer. And maybe there's more than one right answer, right? So I think, AI has the potential. There's a great upside and there's potentially some risks around AI in education.
I love the fork in the road visual. Like AI can be a beautiful thing. Not everything is so black and white. Sometimes culture wants to make it seem very easy where there's a line in the sand and you're either on this side or that side. But actually, it's nuanced. It can be on either side depending on how we utilize and deploy these things. Could you imagine when you were a math teacher back in the classroom, Sari, that you'd be having this conversation so many years later? Kids taking
Definitely
a
not.
picture on a phone that didn't exist then and uploading it to the cloud, and then down comes the answer.
That's right. That's right. But, they're cheating themselves. I've often said, it's like sending a stunt double in to take a test for you. If the stunt
Yeah.
double does, that's doing the test. Now, I'm not getting the experience. I'm cheating myself out of learning and struggling with what that problem is supposed to be teaching me, right? And
Yeah.
that's where I really worry about AI is it's not the shortcut. It should
Whoa.
amplify and enhance students' learning, but not thwart students' learning.
I love the stunt double idea because it's so true. It doesn't, so you get an A on the test. So what? It's not you. How do we get critical thinking into the classroom? Again, how do we get high expectations back into a system that's been so disrupted through COVID and the rebuilding from COVID?
I think that it's about building a culture of those high expectations in school and having the shared belief that every student can do challenging work given the right support. Instead of dumbing things down, we should be trying to scaffold students up, make sure that every student has a chance to engage with meaningful grade level learning expectations and lessons in their classroom. So if you're in fourth grade, you should be getting fourth grade material even though you might be reading at a second grade level. What does that look like? It means the teacher is potentially helping the student with alternative lessons, maybe an easier text to start with, and then scaffolding them up. We want to use high quality instructional materials that motivate students to think deeply, explain their reasoning, and learn from mistakes, because it's the mistakes that generate the learning.
It's all the mistakes in my life where I learn. You get
That's right.
something right and you learn half as much as the failures, which fortunately or unfortunately seem to come about daily in my life. So I'm learning quite a bit, Sari. So abandoning the science of learning, is there some connection with the high expectations and the critical thinking in the classroom? Are those two things interwoven somehow?
Absolutely. Yeah, it requires alignment and commitment across a whole school system, or whether it's a school, a district, even a state. I mean, teachers need time to learn and plan together. What we're asking of teachers today is different than when I was teaching, way different. We've asked them to do shifts in instructional practice, right? To use much more discussion in the classroom instead of teacher being sage on the stage and lecturing to students. It's much more an active classroom. That means the teacher has to let go and give the students agency for their learning. And school leaders need to back that up with clear expectations and support systems to help struggling students catch up without lowering the bar. And that notion of agency, I saw your reaction when I used the word
Yes,
agency.
I just did a podcast on agency a couple weeks ago, so I'm fired up on agency.
Just giving them the responsibility of tracking their own progress, sharing their work, maybe with the teacher, but maybe with other students to get feedback, because that's what we do in the real world. I can come to you, Andy, and say, hey, I've written this article for Forbes. Will you take a look at it and give me some feedback on it before I
Yeah.
send it in? That helps us all get better. And that is the kind of collaboration, teamwork, communication, and knowing yourself and your own strengths. Those are the kind of durable skills that we want students to come out of their learning with.
Iron sharpens iron, and these kids are surrounded by other pieces of iron. How do we get them sharpening each other constantly throughout the day, throughout their whole lives, instead of just sitting and receiving and memorizing, especially in a world of AI where information is literally at our fingertips faster than we can ever imagine? We need students collaborating, digesting information, critical thinking, and thinking about outcomes. Similar to, I was just thinking about this with a friend yesterday when the calculator came along. It was rejected initially because people thought, oh my gosh, we're going to get dumb if we don't know how to do long form mathematics. There are more accountants today than there were before the calculator was invented, not less. They thought it was going to get rid of accounting and all these occupations. And there's actually more because we utilize these tools, and the economy is not a zero-sum game. It grows with ingenuity like this. So, Sari, I've heard you talk about durable skills. Will you explain what that is for the audience?
Durable skills have often been called the soft skills, but they're not really soft at all. Things like communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity. These are the things that we want our young people to be able to take into the workforce and take into their lives for that thriving for their lives, right? You have to learn the academic skills, absolutely. And most of the standards are written as academic standards. But these other skills, and I'm very excited about the direction that so many districts and states have taken. About 40 states now are in various stages of adopting or rolling out what we're calling competency-based frameworks. Some call it portrait of a graduate, some call it portrait of a learner, but they're identifying the skills and competencies that kids need when they graduate high school. And it's so important because it's not only what kids know, but what they're able to do with that knowledge, the way that they communicate that knowledge, the way that they interact with other people, like you and I are talking here today. These are competencies that employers are looking for. And as more and more of the world's content is accessible via search, whether that's improved by AI, these durable skills become even more important.
So how are schools teaching durable skills? What does this look like actually in the classroom in a school district?
Well, teaching and learning these skills should not be separate and apart from the curriculum itself, but interwoven as part of the curriculum. Modern curriculum solutions like Imagine IM and Traverse, two of Imagine Learning's products, have these skills built right in. Kids are active. They are working in collaborative groups. They're asked to analyze. They're asked to build persuasive arguments with evidence. It's those kinds of capabilities and competencies that we are asking students to actually do through the curriculum that we provide. One of the challenges, you're like excited.
Preach.
I can tell you're excited.
It just makes sense. I just love logic, Sari. I love when it's like, oh yeah, there are thoughtful people. You can hold two things in your hand at the same time, how we interact and the actual academia itself. And you put those in a pie and you bake them and it becomes a beautiful thing, or can become a beautiful thing. What else about durable skills is exciting you right now?
So there's a lot of work being done in the field to think about how we evaluate the attainment of these skills. So one of the challenges is employers say, I want people with good analytical and critical thinking skills. How do they
Yeah.
define that? They're notoriously they're challenged to really define that. And we have
Mm-hmm.
yet to find ways to really assess it well. There are a number of different, I'll call it efforts right now to think about that. So the Carnegie Foundation, in collaboration with ETS, the Education Testing Service, is working on a project called Skills for the Future. They are looking at assessments that would help students both develop and evaluate and have some reflection upon their critical thinking skills, their communication skills, and so on. It's early days, but there are folks looking at this.
So what's insane for the audience that my eyes were opened when I married a teacher and she was all about pedagogy. How do you actually teach something to a student? I'd never thought about that before. I was a business major and worked in business up until joining a curriculum company. And my wife taught me the concepts behind the art of actually teaching. And different students have different behaviors, different backgrounds, different understandings, different cognitive loads and bandwidths. And it's such an art. Being a teacher is so beautiful. And then to connect that to the assessment piece, well, how do I know what I'm going to teach tomorrow after I taught today my lesson? Assessment, people who are listening, it's like you think, oh, changing the oil is $19.99. I don't have to get out of my car. It's very easy. Well, you try and go home and change your oil in your own car. You're like, wait, how do I do this? Assessing a student's ability is incredibly challenging. In the comments, put in the comments the best way you think to assess, and I'll send it to our PhDs at Imagine Learning and see if it meets muster. It's incredibly complicated. So I appreciate that we're at the early stages, but I love that people are taking a look at it. It's so critical. And by the way, this isn't one school with 20 kids in it. We're serving 15 million students a day, every day. I don't know the stat off the top of my head, Sari. Do you know how many students there are in America going to K-12 education every day?
Between 50 and 55 million. And they're going to different kinds of schools. Some of them are going to public school. Some of them are going to private school. Now we've seen the rise of micro schools, which is seemingly a version of homeschooling, which is really growing. There's something like, I read a statistic last week that there are 100,000 micro schools in the United States right now, in part due to a little, backlash from the pandemic. Parents didn't like what they saw when they were seeing their kids participate in Zoom school. This was not fit for purpose. What was developed very quickly in response to an urgent need in the pandemic, it is not why we use technology in education, but that's what we had to do during the pandemic to get through. But that reaction has really lit a lot of innovation happening in schools today. We see lots of different variations of schooling happening.
Yeah. I think one of the best things from my perspective from COVID is people woke up to education. Education literally creates our culture in the background. Everyone listening has been educated. It creates our future. It is our destiny. And it was kind of just running in the background for a while. And what I love is that everyone woke up to the importance of education. And I love that. And I feel like right now there's a lot of wrestling going on because everyone's trying to figure out what to do with it. But I think that's a good thing. I think that like when you said earlier, you can send me a document. I can look it over for your next Forbes publication. And it gets better that way when we have multiple voices in the scene. I think the same thing. It's hard when you're trying to figure it out. When you're in the heat of the moment, which I think we are, it's tough. It's difficult. Do you feel that from your perspective?
Yeah, and I actually like one of the side effects is that parents have now gotten activated in a way.
Yeah.
And I think having parents involved in their kids' education is so important. After all, parents are their kids' first teachers, and they know their kids in ways that the teacher will never know. And likewise, kids act differently when they go to school than when they go when they're at home, right? And
that's
so
strange phenomena.
Teachers will see a side of children that their parents may never see. But together, I think if the parents and teachers collaborate better, there's a better opportunity to drive student learning in a very positive way because they're both working in support of the same goal.
So we're talking parents. I can hear my wife's voice, a mom of two, in the back of my head. Andy, too much screen time. I hate screen time. Sari, talk to me about screen time. Everyone listening is thinking about it. They don't want kids on the screen. We're always trying to reduce screen time. What's your take on screen time?
Well, not all screen time is created equal, Andy. And I think one of the things that's so important to remember is what's the purpose of using the technology in the first place? We are all surrounded by technology. And there are things that we have come to know that have just become so automatic, absolutely
Yeah,
automatic. Like we don't look at maps anymore. We just look at our phone when we need to get someplace, right?
truly.
And my sense of
I have that
direction.
realization sometimes is if my phone shut off right now, I don't know where I am. I don't know what direction I'm going. It is crazy how reliant we've become sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, I mean, there are ways in which technology really serves a need for us. And then there are other ways that technology detracts from the overall goal. And I think when we think about technology uses in education, we really have to understand what's the purpose behind what we're trying to accomplish. There are ways that the technology can be really helpful. When I think about, assessments or even collaborative learning, there are ways to do collaborative learning on the computer. I mean, look at the Minecraft games the kids are playing. They are
Yeah.
learning so much from their gaming. Now, they're also learning some really negative things sometimes from their gaming. But you think about the collaborative online games, that's a model for collaborative in school work or across schools work, different schools. You could have students collaborating
Whoa.
across the world, right? All
Is that
teaching the skills, but that could be screen time. And like anything else, it could be used for good or for bad.
is that a reality? Is that actually something that could happen? Because I think when a lot of people think of school, they think of sitting in a seat and listening to a lecture and writing silently on a piece of paper. But what the vision I just got when you were talking about students from across a building or a classroom or even multiple schools and even across the globe interacting with each other on learning targets, feeling excited, it almost feels like no, no, no. Learning shouldn't be fun. Learning, is it a
That's too
reality?
much
Could it be?
fun.
This
Well,
is
look at, I
this
mean,
is
we have cohorts of kids working in a course right now online. We already have that with our instructional services business. You've got
yeah.
kids in different parts of the country who are all taking the same course that if we did a grouping that was amongst different schools, you could absolutely facilitate that conversation.
Everyone. Hey, if you haven't already gone over to my Substack and signed up for a free or premium membership, why don't you go do that right now? There's so much stuff. Every Monday morning, you get the newest, latest episode, either a long form or a monologue on a big topic by me. Every Wednesday, you get the self-reflection guide, all my notes, all my memos, and so much more. And by signing up, you will get my free book emailed to you in PDF form right now. Thank you so much.
We are working on some very interesting collaborative problem solving and math projects around similar kinds of things. They could be, we've thought about it as you're in the same classroom, but it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah. So what's amazing for the audience is that these are the conversations that publishers are thinking about. It's not just about what cover are we going to slap on the front of the math textbook next edition. It's how are we going to teach? How are students going to be collaborating? How are we going to be assessing in real time with all the technology available in the world? And it's so complicated, Sari, because it feels like when you can do everything, it's hard to do anything. It's like, how do you narrow your focus when you go to work and you've got everything, math, social studies, science, English language arts, credit recovery for students that are a little behind or need to go an alternative route, instructional services where we're providing just-in-time teachers for students based on specific needs. What do you think about? How do you narrow your focus?
Well, it's really about what problem are we trying to solve right now? What problem are we trying to solve today? One of the great examples is around this assessment for durable skills. And how do we make more visible to the students themselves, first and foremost, what they're learning and how they learn best and what techniques they could use to improve their critical thinking, to the teacher so that she can point things out to the students as they are acquiring those durable skills. We're not explicitly teaching any of that. It comes almost implicitly. And I think we might need to make it tune up the volume a little bit on
Yeah.
durable skills so that people are aware, we bring awareness to it, that it is every bit as important. So that's one of the things I've been thinking about, Andy. But, it's what are the biggest problems we're seeing in schools today? I mean, one of the biggest problems is, are we teaching the right stuff? I keep thinking about in the world of AI, how do you need to rethink the curriculum overall to say some of the concepts we used to teach in Algebra 2 even relevant anymore when you can do it on a computer if you're ever asked to do it? I mean, yes, I'm sure in some professions you absolutely need all of that content, but maybe in many you don't. And I know that there are big projects happening now with, the big thinkers in mathematics to say, hey, are we like just reteaching the same stuff every year? Or could we be bringing things like data science into the curriculum more so, which is a skill that is going to be much more needed in the future, given AI, given
Well,
the opportunities.
the opportunities seem limitless. Like people going to school right now are going to be in jobs that don't exist today. I was just talking to Neil Twa on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he told me about agentic AI. I had no idea what it was. And then I open up the Wall Street Journal, and on the front page, there it is, Walmart and Chat GPT. They're no longer selling to us, the consumers. They're selling their information, their products to AI. And then AI has our distinct profiles, and AI knows us in a lot of cases better than we know ourselves. And then AI is targeting us with these companies' products. Walmart's doing it. Etsy's doing it. Shopify is doing it. Neil said to me, he said, if you're going to college right now and you're not on a certified course to become a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer or something you need a certification in, he's like, drop out. So you won't be able to pay back the debt in enough time because things are changing so fast. And I pushed back and I said, well, Neil, you dropped out of school. So it's easy to say that when you've done it and you see a path. I went to school and I carried a lot of debt. It took 9 years for me to pay it off. And I'd do it again if I could, because not only the curriculum and the experiences, but there's a lot of other things that happen at college. That's where I met my wife. That's where my best friends are from. And so what you're saying, some of these implicit skills aren't academic, but they come through education because that's how we form humans in society, is through school. So I just mixed up a bunch of different ideas there, but your idea on rethinking, are we even teaching the right things in school, blew my mind. I mean, that's amazing. Thank God there are people like you thinking about these things, because what do you teach? There's hundreds of millions of kids going to school every day. What do we teach them? Do we just copy and paste from last year, from 50 years ago, from 100 years ago? Or do we have to rethink this? And if people read your work and all you have to do is search Sari Factor, all your material comes up. You're talking about leveraging technology without losing the human connection. What does that look like in reality? It's one thing to say, but how do you marry those two things together?
I think AI can amplify what humans do, and what, like in education, it can amplify what great teachers already do best. And there are ways to encode in the AI those best practices, evidence-based practices, high quality curriculum and aspects of that, so that you let the teachers, then they need to be in control always. They can be connecting with students, diagnosing learning needs, sparking that curiosity we talked about earlier. And we're not trying to automate what teachers do. We're trying to automate the administrative stuff that teachers have to do, that they hate to do, so that they can be lifted up and do the things that they love to do and that only they can do. I don't believe that the computer can really drive the kind of curiosity that kids need, that need to be sparked, the motivation that needs to happen in the classroom. I don't believe that a computer can do that as well as a teacher can. The teacher who really knows that learner, really knows what her home life has been like, and it's the teacher that can spark that. So the computer can give, the teacher back time, more time for teaching by lightening their workloads, handling repetitive tasks. I can give teachers better insights into student learning. I mean, it's great at analyzing data. Why wouldn't we take all the data that we have on a student and free the teacher up from having to do that analysis, making the recommendations to them, allowing them to flag the misconceptions and suggesting targeted supports so the teacher can then give the real-time actionable feedback instead of spending her time looking at a bunch of reports, right?
Yeah.
I think there could be tailored recommendations that then can be given to the teacher, still giving the teacher control of what they do. Do you want to assign it to a student online, on a screen, Or do you want to take those kids, this cohort of kids, into a small group and do a mini lesson? There's so much that could be done with AI to help propel the teacher. I think about a teacher's own professional growth and learning.
Yeah.
I mean, what if you could give a teacher kind of the real-time feedback on her own practice to enable her to improve her practice over time? Modeling effective questioning, that providing that feedback on lesson plans, helping them kind of even analyze a video of their own instruction in service of that reflection and improvement.
Two thoughts here, Sari, very different. Number one, I record every meeting I can, and I take the transcript and I have AI critique me. What was efficient? What wasn't efficient? Where did I get off track? When was I friendly? What was valuable? What wasn't? If the audience isn't utilizing AI for self-improvement, you're missing out. It can analyze these. I mean, what that takes is legitimately 30 seconds, and you can continually get better. And you can tell it, what type of person do I want to be? If you tend to be angry, or you raise your voice, you're too aggressive, and you're trying to pull that back, you can feed that prompt into AI, and it will give you recommendations. It's amazing. And thinking about how a teacher could utilize that in the classroom for self-improvement it's amazing. And we can all be doing it right here in our own lives. My other thought, very different, is everyone listening, if you think for 2 seconds, you can think of your favorite teacher. And why were they your favorite teacher? At least for me, Miss Bobian, my 4th grade teacher, when we learned about all the state stuff in Michigan, it wasn't academic stuff. It was the fact that she saw me. It's her catching me, picking my nose, and pulling me aside after class and telling me that, gentlemen, don't put their fingers in their noses. That's the magic of a human teacher that AI can never replicate, never will. Teachers can point students to the technology. They can utilize the technology like a worker with a tool belt and you pull a hammer out. Teachers can utilize it. I have shivers crawling up my skin right now thinking about Ms. Bobian and how life-altering she was for me. And I can go through almost every grade level and think of that teacher and why they were special to me. And it was rarely the academics. So I love your point on AI can help save teachers time to do the things that teachers do best, which is the soul-to-soul, the heart-to-heart connection, the connecting the dots, understanding the emotional needs of the student to help them attain these goals. Of course, we have to achieve academic proficiency. But a teacher, when my wife was teaching, it's a literal 16-hour-a-day job. You're up at 5 prepping, you go to school all day, then you grade, then you do lesson plans, then you go to bed, and you do it all again all school year. And if we can take away a lot of the lesson planning, a lot of the grading, a lot of the feedback, we can take away a lot of the meat that takes up a lot of time. That isn't the artistry of a teacher. And of course, teachers can do as much or as little of it as they want. Some people love that sort of stuff. Do it. Sweet. But also, you don't have to. I wonder if that helped with the teacher shortage. Do you think these tools could help with teacher shortage issues? I'm sure everyone everywhere has experienced seeing signs out front of a school, substitutes needed.
Yeah, and that shortage has been going on for a very long time now, at least a decade and a half. College students who want to study teaching is down about 30% over a decade ago. And we've got a leaky bucket. The leaky bucket is the teachers that, come, they teach for a couple years, 2, 3 years, and then they go off to find something else. You have to ask yourself why. Why? I mean, teachers are a professional class, but first, we don't treat them with the respect that they deserve, I believe. Number 2, I think we've made the job so difficult. And I think this is where AI could be very, very helpful. The caution, of course, is that AI is still new and the field does not have a lot of evidence of effective applications.
Yeah.
Now, I'm thrilled there are groups like Stanford's Generative AI for Education Hub. It's part of their SCALE initiative that really looks for evidence, efficacious solutions using AI. They're looking at studies of, what is really driving impact and measurable outcomes, both for teachers and ultimately for learners. But I also worry about the many applications out there, these lesson planning tools and so on. To me, it feels very much like the explosion of Pinterest for lesson planning and some of this where the coherence of what is being taught is lost. Back to the very first thing I talked about in terms of really focusing on the science of learning.
Yeah.
And if you don't focus on the science of learning, I mean, this is why the AI tools that we've created at Imagine Learning, we talk about it as curriculum informed AI. This is an approach that educators have told us they very much value, that it's grounded in trusted, high quality instructional materials and evidence based instructional practice so that the AI can enhance the learning without disrupting academic integrity. And I think that is at the heart of what most educators need so that when they ask for a new lesson plan, they ask for a version of a lesson for these 8 students who have not mastered this skill and want a remediation activity, they've got something that has been used as a proven way to drive student outcomes.
Yeah. And you don't have AI hallucinations serving up faulty material.
Yeah, it's interesting. The company will remain nameless, but I did ask one of the companies that provides a bunch of these student tools, like, so what are the things that teachers most ask for, right? They
Yeah.
ask for more multiple choice questions. Like, really? Really? We don't have enough multiple choice questions in the world? Like, make me a
Oh my
worksheet with,
gosh.
this is not
That's
the best and highest purpose of the AI, number one. And number two, like, is it going to really help if the student understands it? Don't give them more multiple choice questions. If the student doesn't understand it, giving them more multiple choice questions is not going to help them understand it better.
amen. And back to what we were talking about earlier on, what should we even be teaching? Like maybe education degrees need to change on how we're utilizing these tools. I know I have done a lot of self-study on AI prompts and how to utilize AI for effectiveness. It's not intuitive. Like these tools are so rich that you need to look into them. I probably got 20 hours on YouTube videos and tutorials figuring out how do I utilize AI for my business, for my family, for vacation planning, for my budgeting, for everything. It can literally do anything. Back in the day, you had to be very wealthy to have people wait on you and help you with tasks. Now, anybody has an unlimited army waiting to serve them. You just need to know how to utilize them. It's crazy. And to your point about it's like, oh my gosh, you're missing the point, teacher. Multiple choice, you're missing the point.
That's right.
You could be transforming your classroom with these tools, and we just need to rethink.
But it takes training, Andy. I mean, it really does take some,
Big
concentrated time. You talked about the time it takes you to,
Yeah.
you've spent. And I don't think we've invested in teachers with the kind of training about AI and AI literacy. We want them to become fluent because the kids are like, they're off and running. And one
Yeah.
of the challenges is, I think the practices of many of the students have gotten way ahead of the guidelines. One of the things that we're seeing is, I don't believe that states or the federal government have done enough to put guidelines in for teachers and for educators and for schools. We have to protect kids and we have to protect teachers and their privacy. We have to be transparent about when AI is being used and when it's not being used.
Yep.
We want students to learn about AI, but it requires almost like a curriculum, a way of thinking about it. Here are the things you should use AI for. Here are the things we don't want you using AI for. We've got to give students and teachers some guidelines.
Well, and the crazy thing is, teachers have a lot of boundaries they have to stay within, where the students are just off and running with this stuff. But for a teacher to change a method of teaching, I mean, it takes years for this research to come in. And we're talking about the struggle with assessment and how long it takes to even identify what is efficacious, what is efficacy. And so what do you do in the meantime? The kids are using it because they got a phone in their pocket, but the teacher doesn't know if this is actually making a statistically significant difference or not. So,
well, and one of the things we found is even within the same school, 2 teachers may have different philosophies and have different practices. So one might allow the student to use AI in their homework, and the other one says, I forbid it. And then you get this mixed message to the students. And then, some feel like it's cheating. Other people feel like you couldn't do it without. Again, I keep going back to what's the learning outcome you are trying to teach? What do you really want the students to take away from learning, and what are they learning about themselves and the skills that they need for the future?
Yeah. Well, and I don't even have an answer to that situation where one teacher says use it and the other teacher doesn't. Because I think, again, it's like a nuanced thing. What subject are they teaching? What type of student is that student. And sometimes the struggle, I think, especially in such a huge organism like education, is trying to tell everyone they have to do everything the same way, which is why I love, shameless plug, our knowledge-based curriculum, our problem-based curriculum, is because it teaches you the multiple ways to approach a problem and how to solve it, no matter your characteristics, your personality, your temperament, where you grew up, how you grew up, your socioeconomic background, low floor, high ceiling. I mean, there are so many insertion points here. And so I love our curriculum because it embraces the nuance. Whereas a lot of times it seems like in education, they try and draw a line in the sand and you have to do this in 5th grade, first half of the year. And it's like, whoa, I don't know. Is that because it's such a big organism and you've worked at every big publisher in an executive role, Sari, so you know how every publishing curriculum company thinks. Does it have to be that way? Just because it's so big, like sometimes in big organisms, you do have to put a wall up somewhere.
Well, I mean, we're all working towards the standards, the state standards that each state has created. So, I mean, one of the challenges is you have 180 days of school, roughly on average, and you're trying to make sure that any curriculum covers that. You won't get your materials adopted or used if you don't at least have that. But it's how you craft those standards into a curriculum that I think becomes distinctive, right? In terms of the walls, I mean, there are some, real market effects when you think about it, market conditions we look at when we say we want to think about how to make this easy for the schools to implement, as easy as possible, even when we're asking teachers to change practice, to do something different than they were doing before. And, schools don't have unlimited funds and unlimited days for professional learning. So how can we put it in the context of those learners, teachers as learners, to help them? Because it's all about implementation at the end of the day, right? You have to, if you're not implementing a curriculum well or right, you should not be adopting a curriculum. When I think about adoption, just the word adopting a curriculum, it's not like you adopt it and then you turn the other way to something else. It's like adopting a child. You've got all those 21 years to raise that kid before they go off into like the same thing with curriculum. You adopt a curriculum. You need to pay it off with strong implementation, with professional learning for the teachers. This is back to the alignment I was talking about earlier, that rigor applies to the alignment and adoption of curriculum too.
Yeah.
Do the building level leaders understand why we adopted this? Do they have the look fors when they walk around and do classroom visits? Do they know what they're looking for as they go classroom to classroom? Publishers like Imagine Learning have to think about all these things because what you're doing is putting a curriculum into a system that needs to work the new curriculum into the system and make sure all the parts are aligned for effective implementation.
How do school leaders, you just talked about school leaders and how important that is. How do they support teachers effectively? Is there one way? Are there multiple methods? How does a leader in a building, even asking the question sounds foolish because, I mean, are we elementary? Are we middle? Are we high? What type of city are we in? What type of students are we working with? Hey, Christmas is coming, and what better stocking stuffer than the Thrive Mastery Guide from Fulfillment Project Season 1. Reflections on each of the episodes, journaling prompts. So it's great for people who love to journal, people who want to journal, people that are leading or people that aspire to lead. This is the perfect gift for them. Come on, let's get it. You can get it at Amazon.com right now. Search Fulfillment Project or go to my Substack, subscribe, and you will get the free download to the ebook. Love you guys. But I think I'm going to answer my own question and then ask for a critique. I think the answer is that leaders are engaged with teachers, and the curriculum that the district has chosen, they need to be all in on. If everyone isn't moving lockstep, then how do you know where to make change? How do you know what's working and what's not working? So leadership, I would think at a school building would mean supporting teachers, supporting the chosen curriculum in the classroom. Because if they're not utilizing it with fidelity the way it was intended, how do we know if it's good or bad?
That's right. That's right. I wouldn't critique much in what you said. I'm gratified that more and more I'm seeing the progression into school leadership, whether it's building leadership or district leadership, is coming more from the curriculum side than I remember 20 or 25 years ago. It used to be the person who was really good with the finances would become the superintendent. Now
Mm.
I find the superintendents have come up through the instructional leadership side of the house, which I think helps to support what you just said. It is that they understand what drives student learning. That's really the ultimate goal of our organization. So we need to honor that by ensuring that we put people in place that know what good teaching looks like. They can walk into a classroom, they can critique the teacher, give the teacher feedback, understand kind of the culture of the school. The minute you walk in the door, you know whether the school is doing what it needs to be doing or if it's not, right?
It is amazing. You can sense the energy almost immediately, 2 steps in, and you have an
Right?
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, your job, you're walking into schools every day. You know what's going on in those schools based on what you see on the walls, how people greet you,
Yeah.
when you walk in the office.
Yeah.
There are great schools, and you know they're great schools because of the way they greet you when you walk in.
A couple anecdotes of my eyes being opened, and a lot of listeners may not get into schools like I get to, like you get to, Sari. So I'm going to say a couple things that I learned. It was getting ready for spring break. I was in a school district in a urban area, and I was talking to kids. I love interacting with the kids. The excitement is palpable. And I said, "Are you so excited to be off next week?" Because in my mind, I was going on vacation. It's time off. It's a break. It's special treats. And the little boy said back to me, he said, "No, I do not want to go on break next week. I don't eat very much at home. I'm bored. I just sit and look at my video game and my parents aren't around." And I thought, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. School is a saving grace. It's an oasis for a lot of children. A lot of
Absolutely.
children. Another example, this is the most extreme I've ever experienced in a school. I was walking through with a principal, and this kid comes up, younger, like 5th grade, and he pulls up his shirt, and there was a gun in his pants, Sari. And I nearly dropped to the floor. I didn't know what to think. And I was so impressed by the way the principal handled it. There was a teacher in the hallway. The situation, it ended up being a fake gun. It was a plastic gun. The kid was playing a prank, and he didn't know any better. I'll say it that way. That's kind of my interpretation. I've thought of this 100 times. Happened 2 years ago. I've thought of it 100 times since then. And he didn't know any better. His brother pressured him to do it, thought it'd be fun. His brother thought it'd be a joke. And it's
Oh,
like,
jeez.
there are so many influences on these students, and they don't always appreciate the repercussions of what that means to have a fake gun in your pants in a school in this modern day and age. So
Yeah, scary. It's
my
sad. It's a sad commentary on our society, right?
yeah, but it reminded me in a beautiful way of the innocence of children, how formidable they are, or formidable they are. And wow, what a responsibility for us in this situation to be able to insert their into their lives and be involved in their lives in such a grand scale. I mean, it's really amazing. So we're wrapping up. I mean, truly, I think we could go for hours and hours.
We
But
could.
I want to talk about your leadership philosophy because I love thinking about leadership. A lot of people in this podcast either are leaders or aspiring leaders, and you do it with vision and empathy. You really feel the soul of the people you work with. That's at least been my experience. And when people talk behind your back, that's kind of the word on the street. So, what have you learned? Because it seems like, how many years have you been in education? This is a leading question.
Over 40.
40 years, constant change. What is one thing you've learned that might surprise people?
Wow. That's a big one. That's a big one. I guess one of the things that I think about often is that we're all learning from each other. It's not
Mm.
leader to subordinate. It's a two-way street. And I think when I was a lot younger, I was like, tell me, leader, what I need to be doing. Like, you got to find it inside yourself and share what you believe in. And that, again, makes the organization, makes the group better. I like to tap into the ideas of our people. People like you, Andy, you're on the front lines. You're talking to schools every day, school leaders every day, to kids every day. I don't have
Yeah.
that privilege anymore. I don't get to. So you're seeing things that I never get to see. I do it from time to time,
Interesting.
but I think leadership is listening. Leadership is listening to all the voices around you, really understanding context. I mean, it's the same as teaching in some ways, right? You want to know the context that your kids are coming from so that you can lead them to the next stage. I think
Wow.
really listening and helping every individual take the next step in their career is the important thing.
Wow. The spark that went off when you were talking was perspective. Everyone, no matter what level in the organization, has a different perspective on the organization. And it's all good data in. And the more data, the better, because you can make a more informed decision. And maybe my data input is ignorant or unknowing or missing a component, but it's good data. More data, the better. So instead of being closed-minded and just pushing down on people below you, having open ears, listening, and then responding accordingly. I love that. How do you build trust with people when you're introducing new tools or models?
It really starts with respect for every individual and an understanding of where they are in their journey. And so, how will whatever the new model, the new tool, say I'm a principal in a new school and we've adopted something new, understanding
Yeah.
where each individual is. And sometimes we forget that they're kind of like students. There's a spectrum. You've got your high flyers, people who are very experienced, or maybe very experienced might not be a good thing. They're too set in their ways. And you've got your newbies, right? Each person is going to come to that new tool or model with a different perspective. And how do you move them along the continuum? How do you scaffold for them if you need to? But understanding the why behind why you've adopted this new tool is the real critical thing. What was the rationale for the adoption? What's in it for the people who will use that tool?
I mean, if anyone's listened to this podcast for like 3 seconds, I'm all about the why, both in our lives, in everything we do, being able to describe why you're doing what you're doing, especially when you're making change. Why is this important? Change is really, really hard. Why are we doing it? If you have a solid foundation, not only can you get people to make the change, but you can get people excited about it because everyone wants to evolve and grow and get better in one way or another. But no one likes to waste time. No one likes to run into a brick wall over and over and over again. And if you don't have a solid why, that's what it can feel like. So I love that answer of having a solid why, of doing what you're doing, even when there's resistance, because you can go to sleep at peace every night knowing this is the best way. And these people will end up thanking me in a year or two once they see the fruit of this hard work. It's incredible the amount of times we've done things in districts that are really hard, changing the paradigm of the district from an instructional perspective. And we do parent nights and we prepare everyone, but it's hard. It feels different. Different is tough. And then the data starts to roll in and it's really good. And people see their kids excited and engaged at home around the dinner table in new ways. And all of a sudden the naysayers become the believers and they become your biggest evangelists in a way because they once were lost and now they're found. They were blind and now they see. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think it all starts with that why. If you're not convicted, change is too hard. And without a
And
why,
you have
it's
to
too hard to be
communicate
convicted.
frequently and consistently. You've got to remind your stakeholders like what that rationale was for change and then look for ways to celebrate progress, right? And you do
Yes,
that
yes.
publicly over and over and over again. It becomes self-reinforcing.
You know, celebration, Sari, is something I've talked about, not frequently, but everyone on my team that I work with, no, we always celebrate because life is hard. Life is really hard, especially in the education world when I lose a lot more than I win. And it's so funny because I just lost the biggest deal I've ever lost. And it bummed me out for a couple days. Everyone listening has experienced a huge bummer at work. And I learned through the guidance of a mentor, I turned into gratitude. I'm so grateful I was in a position to be talking to a district that could have made that much change. 8 years ago when I started here, I never could have imagined it. I never could have imagined something on a scale that complex, that deep, that much institutional change. And by the way, we didn't even lose it. It will happen in time. It's just not happening now because the change is so great.
Even better. Even
We
better.
just need more time to seed the ground and fertilize the ground and communicate, like you say. But it's like, wow, so there can be gratitude everywhere, in celebrations everywhere, even when it seems like a desert or despair. Celebrate. Celebrate. All right, Sari, last question. Advice to district leaders. So advice to district leaders trying to balance innovation, like this cutting edge AI stuff we're talking about, new practices, science of learning, with also day-to-day realities, behavior, struggles, attendance, teacher shortage, substitutes. How do you balance those two things? How do you hold both of those at the same time?
It's tough. And I think keeping the big picture in mind, like where we're trying to go and not letting little setbacks set you back. You just talked about it. You just
Yeah.
talked about it. Andy, you've got a big goal in your life, right? You want to do well for yourself, for your family, for your company. You want to grow as a leader. You're doing all of that and you have a setback. And it's like,
Yeah.
put it in perspective. That day-to-day thing, the kid's gun in in his pants, like you have to say, okay, I've got goals, I've got values, I'm driving forward, I'm making progress. But life is a series of ups and downs. You make progress and it's never a straight line, right? You're never going up and to the right consistently.
Never
You got
feels like
spurts
it.
of growth and then you've got regression. You
Yep.
got to pick yourself up, start the new day new and say, here's what I'm going to do today. I think it takes real intention. It takes goal setting, intention, recommitment to those goals from time to time. You got to keep reminding yourself what it is you're going after.
Intentionality. I think, is it fair to say intentionality comes from reflection? You can't be intentional if you're not reflecting on how you want to be intentional.
I think that's fair. Sure.
I just hit home all the time. Like, we need to be reflecting about what we want to be so we know who we want to be. If you're not thinking about what I want to do, who I want to be, what I want to have, what direction, when I wake up every day, where am I going? And especially as a district leader where there are so many influences around you, I think you need to have a very clear focus on what direction you're going in. And that comes through, I guess it could come a number of ways. It's so funny when we put our own paradigm on it. Like, I would reflect on that. Where does this school need to be? Where do these kids need to be? What do my families need from me? And then you're marching in a clear direction. Sari, what did I miss? What are you dying to say to the audience? Where did I go wrong? You get the last word.
My last word is, Andy Leonard is a thoughtful, smart person who really cares about people. Ultimately, that's like, you didn't get to talk about you. I appreciate you, Andy. Thank you so much for having me today on your podcast. I'm thrilled that you're doing your podcast. You're braver than I am. I haven't gone off that direction yet, but thank you.
It is
Privileged
scary
to work with you.
Thank you, Sari. What a joy to have you on today. Thank you for saying yes. And everyone, like and subscribe. Share it with a friend. If someone's on your mind right now, someone thinking about education, share it. Share it with them right now before you shift your focus. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Sari Factor, everyone. See ya. Hey, my friends, I've got my new book out and I want you to experience it. You can do it two ways. One, you go to Amazon right now, search Fulfillment Project. You get a hardcover or a soft cover. Reflections on each episode from season 1 of Fulfillment Project. A beautiful summary, key quotes, and then room to journal. If you want to start journaling and you don't quite know how, this is a great way to start. Makes a great coffee table book. I was intentional about making it as beautiful as a Neanderthal like me could make it. If you don't want to pay for it, go to substack.com right now. Subscribe to my Substack newsletter for free, and I will immediately send you an email with a free PDF download of the book so you can still participate with it that way. Thank you so much.